Hey everybody, it's your boy Nerdicane, and I wish I could be talking to you under happier circumstances, but the news came down this morning. I just found this out from Bounding Into Comics. Well, I found out this morning. I've been kind of sitting on it all day, thinking about it, and giving it time to cool. But Marvel Comics has hired Zoe Quinn to write a Hellcat story in an anthology book, and I'm really glad that I slowed down. I'm really glad that I took the time, because when I first read this, I was bummed out. I gotta admit, I was absolutely bummed out. Not for myself, mind you. This, I'm not a writer. I do it on the side. I come up with these stories, but I never really get time to follow through on them. I was bummed out for anybody out there who is the next Frank Miller, who's got an idea, who's got some really great ideas out there. I was bummed out for that person, because there's a chance that that person could be a white male, and they're never going to get a shot at Marvel, at this current climate at Marvel, because of that. Because they've gone they've gone full female, and this is, once again, this falls right back to Sana Amanat. I just did a video where she was on a podcast, and basically going through and listening to the things that she says, you realize that, yes, Sana Amanat is a huge problem at Marvel. She's a huge part of why they're failing. And it's not because she's a woman, it's not because she's brown, it's not because she's Pakistani or Indian. It's because of the philosophy that she comes to Marvel with. And I kind of break that down in that video. Go check that one out. It's a pretty good video. But Marvel has decided it doesn't want to get healthy, and you see that from Sana Amanat. It doesn't want to get healthy. It doesn't want to get better. It's not interested in selling books. It's interested in waving the flag of the female. It wants to say, look, we have this many female writers. Sure, they sell 5,000 a copy, but we have female writers. We have female artists, and I'll get to the part that I'm glad that I sort of stopped and thought about is, it's Zoe Quinn. She's a grifter. She has weaponized her supposed victim status. She has weaponized her gender. She's a grifter in this nerd community. She made some bullshit game called Depression Quest, and I've seen it. I didn't play it because it just looks like a bullshit game made by somebody who's a grifter in the industry. Go look up the Gamergate thing. She was involved heavily with that, and she was really the catalyst. Her actions were really the catalyst of Gamergate. But now she's in comics. She did, if you'll remember, back in December, Goddess Mode came out, and I'm putting up the numbers of Goddess Mode. Goddess Mode started at about 17,500 in sales, which is really, really strong if you're an Image book or if you're a Black Mask book. But the problem was, this was a Vertigo book. This was a DC imprint that was supposed to be the cream of the crop, the most interesting, the most thought-provoking stuff. New people got the helm at Vertigo, and they instantly drove it into the ground with Goddess Mode and Border Town and American Carnage, which was all right, but not really. And Second Coming, which didn't come out, which was driven completely into the ground. She was part of that, and somebody at Marvel said, "Okay, yeah, let's get her a writing gig. Let's sign her on," which is, it is what they're going to do. If you want to go find talent that's guaranteed 5,000 sales with the sales apparatus of DC Comics, with the sales apparatus, with the label of Vertigo Comics attached to it, you get somebody in there, you should be able to just reprint your old books like Preacher and Sandman. You should just be able to reprint those and sell 50,000 a month. But you take the name, and you take DC Comics, and you take the massive glad-handing press and the massive advertising budget behind it, and you go from 17 to, I think it went from 17 to 8 to 5 to 4, and it just ended right about 4,600 for issue 5 or 6, wherever that turkey ended. It was like neon Sailor Moon-ish with a little bit of like reboot. You remember the reboot show? And it was just its biggest crime was just being absolutely bland. And that's what it was. So somebody hired her at Marvel, but I know where this is going. They're gonna say this. They're gonna AstroTurf this. They're gonna say, "Oh, by popular demand, Zoe Quinn is getting a Hellcat series, which will turn into a miniseries, which will turn into canceled, which will turn into quarter bin fodder." That's the progression. That's where we're going. But she's been hired to do an anthology. Now, this is where she should have started. She should have started, if you were going to bring Zoe Quinn into comic books and have her start writing comic books, Dan Didio, or whoever that moron at Vertigo Comics, he's the guy, I can't remember his name, but he will live the rest of his career. He will be the guy who shuttered Vertigo Comics. But you should have brought her in on an anthology. You should have brought her in on short stories in maybe an annual or something like that. That's where someone like Zoe Quinn, who's a grifter, should be getting her feet wet in the industry to see, hey, are we getting positive response? Hey, is this story good? Is it coherent? What does it say? Is it something worthy of DC Comics? Is it something worthy of this character? That's where it should have started. And if this were the beginning of her story, if this were the beginning of her career in comics, it wouldn't be such a problem to me. I wouldn't be so pissed off about it. But she's already had a #1 series with Vertigo Comics. You know it's coming. I'm going to lay the prediction now. She's going to be writing a series, which will turn into a series, which will turn into canceled at Marvel Comics. That's just going to happen. I'm laying it down right now. You know it's going to happen. They're going to AstroTurf their way into that. But I feel bad. I feel bad for the young, talented people who are trying to get a start out there. They're trying to get their foot into comics, and people like this, people like Vita Ayala, people who have they've taken their gender and they've taken their race and they've taken their place on the progressive stack, and they've turned that into a crowbar to kind of force the door of Marvel. Well, they don't really have to force it. It's the people inside the building are looking outside the building and saying, we want this, 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 and this. If you can check these off, we'll bring you in. And that's really the root of the problem with comic books right now. But the future of comic books is not Marvel and is not DC, and it's Indiegogo. Indiegogo is going to be the place people go to find comics in the future. But I feel bad. I feel bad for anybody out there who's aspiring to get into comics who, may be the next Frank Miller, maybe the next George Perez. They may be the next great in comics. But in this day and age, for the foreseeable future, unless they go become an indie and do a Kickstarter and build that audience themselves, they're never going to get the foot in the door where they should be getting their foot in the door. But tell me what you think about this one in the comments. And if any aspiring comic book writers or artists out there, if you're listening to this, man, forget it. Marvel doesn't want to get better. Marvel has no Marvel, they have no interest in getting better anymore. They want to wave that virtue flag, and it's time for you to strike out on your own and create your own. And it's a sale. I'll tell you, there's 3 parts to a sale. If you want to sell yourself and you want to sell your comic book to the audience, DNC, EVS, Kyle Ritter, they all laid it out there for you. It's 3 parts. Okay? You find the people, you tell them your story, you ask them to buy. That's it. That's what you got to do, because it's sad that the doors to DC and Marvel are closed to you, and probably going to be closed for business in the next few years. But that's all I got for this one. Sorry, I'll try to come up with something more upbeat, but it's comics. There's not a whole lot of there's not a whole lot of good news coming in major comics right now. But thanks for listening, and you guys go have a good day. Bye.